Okay, this is going to be another video about gang stalking. The books I've read and the pertinent takeaways from these books. I'll try and make this video a bit quicker, a bit shorter, I'm not sure. The last one of the books that I've read, there was some stuff that I really wanted to go over, and it didn't go as fast as these will. So let's get right into it. Invisible Gorilla by Chris Chabris and Daniel Simmons, or Simons, I'm not sure which. It's a vivid look into how much of a social experiment human beings are. These guys do all kinds of cool and crazy experiments as far as human beings and perception factors. Perception is huge in gang stalking, so it's really, really a good read. It's probably going to be very educational for you. But these guys look at humans in a very godless view, and just basically from the psychological minefield. Not wrong or right, they're entitled to their opinions, and what the book wanted to share to the public, it was extremely well done. It was extremely well written. The social experiments and the scientific experiments they were really cool. I gotta say, I really enjoyed the book. It was really awesome. But the takeaway for gang stalking is these people don't look at us as human beings anymore. We are lab rats, and the lab has left the building just like Elvis. We are actually it's a walking lab for these guys. They've made many calls in Invisible Gorilla in this book to go ahead and set up more psychological tests and more psychological things. They made many calls for that, which definitely exceed moral allowances. Now, since I'm very experienced in this gang stalking thing, I saw some of the things, in the read between the lines as far as gang stalking in this book. But it's a good read, and I definitely recommend picking it up and seeing if it does or how it may actually affect your life. All the innocuous things, the stupid dumb stuff, the street theater, the gang mobbing, these could just be ways of gathering information, so you might actually be a part of his statistical analysis in maybe one of his next books. But, however, next book up is The Secret. The Secret goes into gang stalking as well. They went ahead and they came from Australia, and to actually film The Secret, and they said all the specialists are here in the United States about the laws of attraction. There is a lot of key points in The Secret that point to gang stalking, such as the guy with AIDS that fantastically gets cured of AIDS. He could have actually had a false positive, or there could have been some kind of shady person as far as, taking his blood, and this could already been a setup. I'm not trying to go too far into the conspiracy theories on this, but it does have a little bit of it in the read between the lines there. It definitely has a lot to do with the backward land that gang stalked feel. Also, just go with the flow. You should just whatever comes your way, it's cool. Not fight for anything decent or anything like that. Just go with the flow. The other thing in The Secret or the laws of attraction is change your thinking, change your mindset, and agree with them. It's basically, you would be giving up your God, or the way you see God, or the way you see the world, which is a new religion. It's what religion does. I'm not calling this wrong or right, but from my opinion, it's definitely skewed, and I guess all religion is, to be honest with you. But I don't buy a whole lot into it. But it is actually a very powerful movement, so we have to take that into consideration as well. So, next up from that is the Book of Solomon. The Book of Solomon has masonry written all over it. And, well, they tout the Book of Solomon in masonry. So when I actually started reading up and learning about the philosophy of masonry, I thought it was very excellent. I loved the inclusive factor. I loved how worldwide it was. I loved how historical it was, and it's really cool. But the Book of Solomon basically is a good read. You can download it PDF style. There's a few of them. Like there's one, The Lesser Keys of Solomon, and something else and something else. I'm sorry, I read it a while ago, so I can't tell you which one's which. It's not that many to choose from. But the one that I'm referencing is the same ones that the Masons reference, which is where Solomon has his rings of power and he puts devils to work to build the Temple of Solomon, the most grand temple of Jewish history. And Solomon, being the wise king, goes ahead and he gets all these devils to work for him. And how he does it is he finds out their power, he finds out their weakness, he finds out their authority, and then he binds them. And if you actually boiled some things down in today's philosophy, what they do to you, how they analyze you, and the and the things that they do, if they know you're a Christian, they'll just keep on hammering you and douchebag you and do all kinds of poor things to you to attack your heart and your pride. And then they'll go, aren't you a good Christian? You should be forgiving us. And so if they know, your power, your weakness, and your authority, they can very easily manipulate people. So that goes into, there's been many references to Masonry through gang stalking. I think Masonry plays quite a big part in this, and the Book of Solomon is probably a good read if you want to try and understand how they think and how they manipulate you. I think it's very important. And so we'll move on to the next book here. I'm making this a little bit quicker than the next video or the previous video as far as the books go, because there's just a little bit less to talk about on these topics. So, the next book. Okay, the next book is Never Forget the Jews of the Holocaust, and it's by Milton Meltzer. It was extremely well documented, very well written. Obviously a sad topic, but it can't be talked about enough. Sadly, in 20, 30 years, we might be going back into another Holocaustic type situation. Who knows? But the takeaway for the gang stalking was, for me, and me personally, this point where when Jews actually escaped from Auschwitz or whatever death camp they were in, they got to surrounding countries and the governments of those surrounding countries, and they tried to explain what was going on. And it was such a huge thing and so hard for them to understand that the leader of this country, Hitler, was systematically exterminating people. Now, it's nowhere near the same severity as far as currently, but with gang stalking, it's the exact same thing. So if you go ahead and you try and tell someone about gang stalking, about what it is, or what's happening to you in your life, and how people are being beguiled, it's so complicated, it's so huge, that even if you had 1,000 or 2,000 people that say, you know what, I'm right there with you, buddy, but they don't know what to do about it. And some of it's just so hard to believe that it really goes unnoticed, or it goes unchecked. That's my main takeaway to go ahead and parlay into gang stalking with that book. That's why it's in this list. The Last Undercover by Bob Hammer. He was a Fed that went ahead and wrote about a lot of the people that he busted and such. Now, I'm not standing up for the perverts or the pedophiles or the criminals in his book, and I'm not calling the Fed wrong, and I'm not calling the criminals right. So the takeaway as far as The Last Undercover, as far as gang stalking goes, and this is why it's in here, we're just going to look at this one particular small piece. I'll preface it with that. The Fed will go through a ridiculous length to set people up, and this was shared in Bob Hammer's book. For years he tried to get these people to cross these certain lines, and when he finally did, bang, the cuffs go on them. He laughs and laughs and laughs. Not that these guys weren't bad guys or deserve to go to jail. That's not for my say, right? That's for his. But the moral of the story is how far the Fed will go to set you up. And they never want a fair fight. He says this in his book. He wants the sides to be completely skewed. And he put some songs on the radio, very fitting of the person's disaster that was yet to befall him. So they have a little bit of sense of humor too. Howard Zinn's People's History of the United States. This is in here just for the fact that there are other people in the world that take the sufferer's viewpoint, and we'll go ahead and share that with the world. Howard Zinn does an excellent book. It's 600 pages. It's huge. It's tons of reading. And if you want to see it from our perspective, which is the sufferer, and not which is the perspective of the persecutor, A People's History of the United States is very cool. Manufacturing Consent by Noam Chomsky. Noam Chomsky is the go-to guy for any international political writing. He's super intelligent. He comes up with just research that you can't get unless you've been in the field for 30 years and you're some crazy super college researcher. But regardless thereof, Manufacturing Consent is in this list due to the fact that we're talking about gang stalking, and in this fashion, which is, it is the government meticulously and notoriously and diabolically will go ahead and try and get your consent on things, policy-wise. Everything's hidden in these innocuous fashions, to cow you in certain ways, and the advertisements and all that kind of good stuff. So these are this is in here for the fact that if you wanted to read it, you could have a broader understanding about how we're manipulated as a people, and that's kind of why it's here in gang stalking, because gang stalking is about perception and manipulation. Not to go ahead and rant, this is about it. I'm going to make one more video as far as books go, and if you're tired of hearing about gang stalking, this is a fun video, but still about some of the books that you might enjoy. Homeless Bum, over and out.